Hey, Jade Blair here, your kind of worker online and in person. Check the links down below. And I heard that you want to lose your virginity to a professional, an escort, a hooker, a lady of the night. Well, as someone who has professionally de-virgined many people, you came to the right place. I can give you quite a bit of advice. And my first piece of advice is, don't be embarrassed or ashamed. I have deflowered 18-year-olds the night they turned 18. I've also taken the virginity of 40-year-olds. Every single person who has ever contacted me looking to lose their virginity has said that they were embarrassed or ashamed it took them so long to get there. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. We as sex workers disagree on a lot of things, but I can tell you right now, we all agree on this. You have not failed in any way. You are not lacking in any way because you haven't had this sexual experience. There are so many reasons why someone may not lose their virginity until later on in life. Some of them may be choice, that the person just wasn't ready. They didn't have the confidence emotionally or in their own body. Maybe they had religious or moral reasons that they didn't want to go ahead. Maybe they were scared of the risk, both to their relationships, their mental health, and also, infections. But sometimes it's not even a choice, and a lot of men have told me that they really want to lose their virginity and have for a really long time, but they've never had the opportunity. Maybe that's because they didn't learn a lot of social skills growing up, and so it's been really hard for them to connect with people. Other times it's because just the women that they were interested in weren't where they were. Like, they went to an all-boys school and then went straight into the military, and it was just very physically hard to meet women due to their location. Other times people have just been way too busy, whether that be with their own hobbies or caring for family members, work, study, or maybe they've been sick or ill or just haven't been able to get around to doing that for so many reasons. It doesn't matter. It is okay. We as sex workers understand more than anyone how important sexual boundaries are. And I don't care how insignificant or silly they sound to the rest of the world. If they are important to you, they are important to me, and I will absolutely respect them. We also, as professionals who spend hours and so much time and energy trying to create the best experiences for our clients, understand how hard it is to get that right. Seriously, finding two people that are attracted to each other physically, but also mentally, because a lot more goes into sex than just like the look of someone. If they're like a really repulsive human being and can't hold a conversation with you, you'll find that your attraction to them just plummets. It's really hard to just find those two people, but then to create an environment where everyone feels safe and welcome is incredibly hard. And then on top of that, you've got to create chemistry and longing and mystery. It's hard, right? Most sex workers take years to be able to create that well and effectively. We know more than anyone how hard it is to actually create that kind of chemistry and want and longing between two people. So if that just hasn't happened for you, trust me, we get it because we understand how hard it is. So there's not going to be any judgment from us. You do not need to be embarrassed. My tip number one is, though, definitely tell your worker it is your first time. When you tell them this will really depend where you are in the world. If you're somewhere where what you're doing is criminal, you don't want to leave any paper trail, right? So you probably won't tell them until you're actually together alone in a room. But if you're somewhere where, like me, it's completely decriminalized and A-okay, this is something you'd probably want to send in your initial text. And I definitely recommend being quite clear and say, I'm a virgin, rather than I haven't done this before, because a lot of the time we'll just assume you haven't booked an escort before. We may not make the connection that you've never had sex before. And I think it's a really important thing to tell your worker so that they can really show you through the ropes. They can take the lead and take a lot of that pressure off your shoulders, and there'll be a lot less expectations on you. And therefore, you'll have a much better time. When I see virgins, there's a whole lot more things that I kind of do that I wouldn't normally do in a regular booking. So I might go a lot slower, I'm going to talk to them a lot more, communicate with them a lot more, but I'm also going to do a lot more education throughout the booking. So one of the things I often tell clients is we need to go slow when you penetrate me. So a lot of guys have just watched heaps of porn where they just ram straight into the girl, but what they don't realize is behind the scenes, the girl's been lubed up and stretched out before they've gone ahead with that. If you just shove your dry cock into any orifice, you will hurt them. Not only because it's dry, so the skin is going to create a lot of friction and can actually tear. Yes, you can literally tear the skin and cause bleeding. But because the muscles are not relaxed and open, you're basically going to cause a lot of bruising and pain as you force them to open before they're ready. It literally feels like you're being punched down there. It's not nice. So you really need to go slow for the first couple pumps. And if you want to speed up or go a lot harder, you kind of have that communication. Another thing is when the guy pulls out, you must hold the base of the condom as you pull out. Otherwise, sometimes it will stay inside the worker and spill the contents everywhere, which is not fun. I find these two things in particular, a lot of virgins just have no idea about. So I'll make sure to kind of subtly, gently mention them throughout the booking. So definitely very important to tell your worker that this is your very first time. My second piece of advice is think about what you want this booking to be. Some people, when they lose their virginity, they really want it to be this amazing, memorable experience that is incredibly sexually gratifying. And they have a lot of connection and intimacy with the person. Other people, they want to have a good time. They certainly don't want to have a bad time, but they're not so focused on making it the best experience ever. They kind of realize that because they're new to the experience, it might be a bit awkward, they might fumble around a bit, and as long as, they had an okay time, they're happy, because you can keep going again and again and again to get lots of practice until you can get to the stage where you have mind-blowing sex. There is no right or wrong way, but have a think about what you actually want from this experience. So for instance, if you really want intimacy and connection with the worker, you might want to go and take them out for dinner and have an extended booking so you can have lots of chats with them. Have a think about what that would feel like and look like for you. Some guys, this makes them feel way more relaxed, being able to kind of get to know the person they're going to be intimate with. Other guys get really flustered. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do with their hands. There's too much eye contact, not enough eye contact, and they're still thinking about the sex and when's the sex going to happen and are we going to have enough time left, and then they get in their head and they can't focus on the conversation and they overwork themselves and get really panicky. So if you're that sort of person, sometimes I find the best situation is just to kind of do the sex as fast as possible and then have the really nice chats and connection afterwards. There's no right or wrong, but think about what is going to make you most comfortable in that situation. Is it going straight for the fun stuff or having lots of slow chats at the end? You also want to consider what actual sexual acts you want to do. Most virgins do want to keep things pretty tame in my experience. So lots of kissing, sensual touches, little bit of dirty talk, and mutual oral, and of course, the big finale. But I have had clients who have been watching porn for so many years and have heard so many stories from their friends, and they just want this night to be over the top and memorable and an extravaganza. And so they want to do everything, including a bit more advanced things like positions that are really quite difficult, anal, role play, and kink. If that's you, again, that's absolutely fine, but you want to know this and be aware of this, so you do your research. Depending where you are in the world, that's going to be easier or harder. If you're in a place where what you're doing is criminal, it's going to be a lot harder to know exactly what the worker does and what they're going to be like in the bedroom. If it's more decriminalized or legalized, then you can have a lot more chats with your worker before the actual booking to find out what they're okay with. If you are in a criminalized state and you show up at a booking and you find out the worker does not do what you want, unfortunately, that is just too bad for you. You can choose to go ahead with what the worker wants, or you can choose to leave without the money that you've paid them. I wish there was a better option. Well, the better option is decriminalization, so you can have that conversation before you've paid out the money, but go talk to your politicians. That's out of my hands. But regardless, definitely do as much research on your provider as you possibly can. I've made videos on how not to get scammed and what to expect when doing a booking. A question I often get asked by people wanting to book an escort either for the first time or to lose their virginity is, how long do I book? I found the escort, I think our personalities match, she wants to do the same things I want to do in the bedroom, I think it's going to be great, but how long should I book? And again, this goes back to you. How much chats do you want? How much cuddle time do you want? But also, how does down there work for you? And I know it can be really hard to kind of predict what your body's going to do in a situation that you've never been in before, but do try and have a bit of a think about it. In my experience, most virgins leave virgins when they book an escort. So what will often happen is we'll get down to, say, the oral bits, and they will shoot very, very quickly. And because they're not used to the situation, they don't really give any warning signs. I'm pretty good at picking up warning signs before someone's gonna pop off, but every now and then I get a little ninja who's super quiet and super still the whole time and gives no change, and I have no idea, and they don't tell me. And so they shoot and don't have enough time to try again. So if you're this sort of person, either tell the worker, like, I think I'm gonna pop really quickly, like, can we just move on to the next thing, or to the big finish straight away, or book longer so you can go again if the worker even does that to begin with. Some will only allow you to go once no matter how long you book, so that's a conversation you need to have with the worker. Likewise, I've also had clients get incredibly nervous and they can't stay hard, so they never really even get to the end event, and even if they do, they often can't come. So if you think this might be you, again, you might need a longer booking. I would usually suggest at least 1 to 2 hours if you are booking an escort for the very first time, but everyone is so different. I would usually say it's better to pay for more that you don't need than to cut it short and not have a good experience. And my final piece of advice is try not to have too many expectations. I know I've just rattled on about how much you need to think in depth about what you want this experience to look like and what it's going to mean for you and how you're going to feel into it, but try not to have too many expectations. You'll soon learn that when it comes to sex, very little of it is actually penis in vagina. The majority of sex is the little brushes up and down your thigh, shoulder to shoulder, the hair brushing across your chest when she leans in to kiss you. It's compliments and flirting and little banter back and forth. It's cuddles and touches and kisses. It's oral, and so much that goes into having a really good experience. The majority of your time will be spent on just exploring that. It's not actually going to be on the P&V. And though the P&V is great and a lot of fun, don't get upset if it doesn't happen or it doesn't happen the way that you want to. Just remember the good bits and enjoy those for what they were, because they are just as important, if not more important, than the P&V. And remember that you've now left with an experience that you didn't have before, and you now have more knowledge that you can put into your next experience, and value that. But no matter what you decide to do, make sure you're doing what is right for you. You are the only person who has ever lived in your body, who has lived your life and had the life experiences that you had. You are the only person who can decide what is right for you, and you deserve to have a wonderful, fulfilling, amazing sex life if that's something that you want. So have a think about it, choose it for the right reasons, and have a lot of fun. Bye for now.